The dogs in this house eat better than I do. Let me say that again. The dogs and cats in this house have 3 meals a day. Me? A human being? I'm lucky if I eat once every 3 days. My uncle screams at me. Beats me when he's angry. Beats me when he's not. I've learned to make myself invisible, but it's never enough. His wife? She's worse. Every morning, 4 a.m. sharp, she shakes me awake. Get up. Cook breakfast. I prepare a full meal, eggs, toast, tea, fruit for the children. The smell makes my stomach hurt because I know none of it is for me. The moment I finish cooking, she sends me out. Go buy milk. Go get bread. Hurry up. When I return, sweating and exhausted, the kitchen looks like a war zone. Dishes everywhere. Food spilled on the counter. Trash overflowing. And the breakfast I just cooked? Gone. Every last crumb. Clean this up, she says, stepping over me like I'm part of the furniture. Then she locks everything, the fridge, the pantry, even the cabinets, and leaves for work. I spend the rest of the day cleaning, mopping, scrubbing, washing, making sure everything is perfect for when they return. My hands crack and bleed from the chemicals. My stomach growls so loud I'm embarrassed, even though no one's home to hear it. You want to know the cruelest part? At 6 p.m., she comes home and feeds the dogs. Premium dog food, poured into clean bowls. The cats get salmon-flavored treats. I watch them eat while I stand there, dizzy from hunger, waiting to be told what to clean next. I'm not allowed to sit at the table. I'm not allowed to touch the food. I'm not even allowed to finish the leftovers. Those go straight into the trash, right in front of me. Because the trash is cleaner than you, she says. Sometimes, and I thank God for this, my younger brother smuggles food to me. A piece of bread hidden in his pocket. Half a banana wrapped in tissue. He's only 7, but he understands. He sneaks into my room late at night, places it next to me, and whispers, "Don't let them see." Then he's gone. Those nights, I cry while I eat. Not because of the hunger, but because a child has more compassion than the adults who are supposed to protect us both. I know what you're thinking. Where are your parents? Why don't they help you? My father died when I was 9. A car accident. He bled out on the side of the road while people just watched. My mother? She died the day my younger brother was born. Complications during delivery. I never even got to say goodbye. That's how I ended up here. With my uncle and his wife. My guardians. The people who promised my dying mother they'd take care of both of us. I know my voice sounds upbeat right now. I can't help it. That's just how I sound. But I want you to understand something. I haven't had a full night's sleep in over 2 years. The fear never goes away. Even when I close my eyes, I'm listening for footsteps. Waiting for the yelling to start. So tonight, since I'm awake anyway, I decided to do something I've never done before. Tell the truth. This is the first time I'm sharing my story publicly, and I need your help. Not money. Not pity. Just your voice. If this made you feel something, anything, please like this video and share it. Someone out there needs to see that they're not alone. Someone in your family, your school, your neighborhood might be going through the same thing. Suffering in silence. I'm going to post a new part of my story every few days. If you want to follow my journey, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. Trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next. Before I go any further, drop a comment and let me know you're here. When I see your messages, it reminds me that I'm not invisible. That somewhere in the world, someone sees me. My name is Megan Bryan. And this is only the beginning of my story. Because what I'm about to tell you next, it's going to change everything. You want to know what it was really like? Beyond the hunger and the cleaning? Let me tell you about specific days. Dates etched into my memory like scars. October 12th, 2018. It was my uncle's birthday. The wife had me bake a chocolate cake from scratch. 3 layers. Homemade frosting. decorated with fresh berries. I worked for hours, my hands shaking from hunger, but determined to get it perfect. When they came home, the children sang "Happy Birthday." My uncle cut the first slice, took one bite, and threw the entire cake against the wall. "Too dry," he said. Then he looked at me. "Clean it up." I spent 2 hours on my knees, scraping chocolate and buttercream off the wallpaper while they ate pizza in the next room. My brother, Daniel, slipped me a crust under the door when they weren't looking. December 24th, 2018. Christmas Eve. They had guests over, important people from my uncle's company. I was told to stay in my room and not make a sound. But then my uncle called me out. "Megan, come serve the drinks." I walked into the living room, head down, and began passing around glasses of wine. One of the guests, a man with a kind face, asked me my name. Before I could answer, the wife cut in. "This is our niece. She's special. A bit slow, but we're doing our best with her." Everyone nodded sympathetically. I wanted to scream. I was top of my class. I had won a scholarship to a science camp that they refused to let me attend. But I just stood there, mute, while they discussed my condition as if I weren't in the room. March 7th, 2019. The day I learned to cry without making a sound. I had forgotten to dust the bookshelves in my uncle's study. When he discovered it, he grabbed me by the hair and dragged me down the hallway. My head hit the door frame. I saw stars. Then he locked me in the basement for 24 hours with nothing but a bucket to use as a toilet. When I came out, the wife looked at my swollen eye and said, "Stop being so clumsy." Physical scars? I have a jagged line on my left forearm from where the wife threw a glass vase at me. She claimed I broke it and was trying to hide the evidence. The scar on my right knee is from falling down the stairs after my uncle pushed me. He told the emergency room doctor I was just being a typical teenager. The worst scar isn't visible. It's the one on my soul from hearing my uncle tell my brother, "Your sister is worthless. Don't be like her." Daniel was only 7. They were saints at church. Monsters at home. Every Sunday, we'd sit in the front row. My uncle would donate generously. The wife would volunteer for every church event. People would compliment them on taking in 2 troubled children after their parents' tragic deaths. "Bless your hearts," the pastor would say. Meanwhile, I was counting the minutes until we could go home, and I could eat the crumbs from the church potluck that they'd accidentally left behind. Psychological manipulation was their specialty. They'd tell me I was lucky to have them, that no one else would want me, that I was ungrateful, difficult, manipulative. They'd alternate between ignoring me completely and micromanaging every aspect of my existence. I never knew which version of them I'd get. I became an expert at hiding bruises. Long sleeves in summer. Makeup on my face. I learned to walk with a slight limp to explain away the pain in my leg. I had secret hiding spots throughout the house, a loose floorboard under my bed, a hole in the mattress, a crack in the wall behind the dresser. That's where I kept my treasures. A half-eaten granola bar, a stolen pen, a notebook where I wrote my thoughts. Once, I almost told someone. It was September 5th, 2019. Ms. Rodriguez, my English teacher, noticed I'd lost weight. She asked to speak to me after class. "Megan, is everything okay at home?" For a second, I felt the truth bubbling up. My throat tightened. My hands sweated. But then I saw my uncle's car pull up outside the classroom window. And I froze. "Everything's fine," I said. "I've just been trying to eat healthier." Ms. Rodriguez looked at me for a long time. I think she knew. But she didn't push. That night, the wife found my notebook. She read every page, every private thought. Then she burned it in front of me while my uncle held me down. "This is what happens when you lie," she said. But I hadn't lied. I had just written the truth. I started planning my escape at 16. It took me 9 years. Not because I wasn't smart enough or resourceful enough, because every time I got close to leaving, they'd do something to make me stay. A threat against Daniel. A promise that things would get better. A moment of kindness that felt like hope, but was just another form of control. They were masters of the emotional roller coaster. Just when I thought I couldn't take any more, they'd give me a crumb of affection. A new pair of shoes. A compliment in front of strangers. And I'd think, maybe this time. Maybe they've changed. They never changed. But I did. Slowly, quietly, I was becoming someone else. Someone who wouldn't be invisible forever. The breaking point came on February 14th, 2022. Valentine's Day. The wife had me prepare a special dinner for her and my uncle. Filet mignon. Roasted asparagus. Chocolate souffle. I spent the entire day cooking, my stomach cramping with hunger. When they came home, they were already drunk. "Where's dinner?" my uncle slurred. I pointed to the dining room table, where I had set out the meal with candles and their best china. He laughed. "We already ate. At the restaurant." The wife stumbled over to me, her breath smelling of wine. "You didn't really think we'd eat at home with you, did you?" Then she dumped the entire meal, plates, food, candles, into the trash can. "Clean this up," she said. "And don't forget to feed the dogs." Something broke in me that night. Or maybe it finally healed. As I scraped the filet mignon into the garbage, I watched the dogs eat their premium kibble. They had better food, better beds, better lives than I did. And suddenly, the fear was replaced by rage. Pure, white-hot rage. I stopped being afraid. I started getting angry. My hands stopped shaking as I cleaned. My mind, usually foggy from hunger, became sharp. Clear. Focused. I had a college acceptance letter hidden in my room. A full scholarship to a university 3 states away. I had found it 3 months ago, but hadn't dared to believe it was real. Now, I took it out and read it again. "We are pleased to offer you a place in our fall 2022 incoming class." They had told me I wasn't smart enough for college. That I'd never amount to anything. That I should be grateful they let me finish high school. But the letter said otherwise. The letter said I was worthy. The next morning, when the wife shook me awake at 4 a.m., something was different. "Get up. Cook breakfast," she said, as usual. I looked her straight in the eye. "No." She froze. No one had ever said no to her. Not me, not my uncle, not even their own children. "What did you say?" she whispered. I said no. "I'm done cooking for you. I'm done cleaning for you. I'm done being your slave." Her face twisted with rage. She raised her hand to slap me, but I caught it. "Don't ever touch me again," I said, my voice steady. She stared at me, shocked. Then she screamed. My uncle came running. "What's going on?" "She's gone crazy," the wife yelled. She attacked me. That's when I realized something important. They would never see me as human. Never see me as worthy. Never let me go willingly. I had to escape. But not just for myself. For Daniel. He was 10 now, still small for his age, still trying to sneak me food, still flinching whenever my uncle raised his voice. The next day, while they were at work, I searched their office. I was looking for my birth certificate, social security card, any documents I would need to start a new life. That's when I found it. A safe behind a painting. And inside, something that made my blood run cold. Documents showing that my parents had left a substantial trust fund for Daniel and me. And bank statements showing that my uncle had been draining it for years. Using our inheritance to fund their lifestyle. Their vacations. Their cars. Their church donations that made them look like saints. They weren't just abusing us. They were stealing from us. They had promised my mother they would take care of us. Instead, they were destroying us. That night, I made my decision. I would escape. But I wouldn't just run. I would expose them. I would make them pay. They made me invisible. I was about to become unforgettable. I had nothing left to lose. and everything to gain. My freedom, my future, my justice, and Daniel's too. The next 3 months were a blur of secret planning. I became a master of deception, just like them. But my deception had a purpose: freedom. Documentation became my obsession. Every time they hurt me, I found a way to record it. A phone hidden in my pocket, set to record audio. A tiny camera I bought with money I earned from tutoring other students. They thought I was staying after school for detention. I took photos of everything. The bruises on my arms. The scar on my forehead. The locked pantry where I wasn't allowed to touch the food. My barren room with just a mattress on the floor, compared to the children's rooms filled with toys and decorations. I kept a dated journal of every incident. March 15th, 2022, Uncle threw a book at my head for looking at him wrong. March 22nd, 2022, wife made me scrub the bathroom floor with a toothbrush because I missed a spot. March 28th, 2022, Uncle locked me in the garage for 24 hours with no food or water because I forgot to take out the trash. April 5th, 2022, wife poured cold water on me while I slept because she thought I looked too comfortable. April 12th, 2022, Uncle hit Daniel for spilling milk at dinner. I intervened and got thrown against the wall. My back still hurts. I wrote it all down. Every detail. Every word they said. Every emotion I felt. The fear, the anger, the humiliation. The tiny moments of hope when Daniel would sneak me food or whisper, "I love you," when no one was listening. I started screenshotting text messages with cruel commands. Come home immediately. Don't be late. Clean the garage this weekend. All of it. Don't even think about going to that school dance. You have work to do. They thought they were being discreet. They didn't know I was documenting everything, building a case against them. But I couldn't do it alone. I needed help. Someone who would believe me. Someone who could help me navigate the system. That someone was Ms. Rodriguez, my English teacher. I chose her because she had noticed me before. Asked if I was okay. I think part of her already suspected something was wrong. One day in April, I stayed after class. Ms. Rodriguez? I said, my heart pounding. Can I talk to you about something? Privately? She led me to her office and closed the door. What's on your mind, Megan? I took a deep breath. And then I showed her everything. The photos. The recordings. The journal. Her face went from concern to horror to rage. Oh my God, she whispered, tears in her eyes. Why didn't you tell me sooner? I was scared, I admitted. I'm still scared. But I'm more scared of staying. She believed me immediately. No questions. No doubts. Just pure, unwavering support. We need to get you and your brother out of there, she said. Now. Together, we researched legal options. Child Protective Services. Police reports. Restraining orders. Ms. Rodriguez had a friend who was a social worker, Linda Hayes. We met secretly at a coffee shop miles from my home. Linda listened to my story, examined my evidence, and made a plan. This is solid, she said. But we need to be careful. If they find out what you're doing, they could hurt you. Or your brother. Financial preparation was crucial. I opened a secret bank account at a different branch from the one my uncle used. I deposited the money I earned from tutoring, from cash gifts relatives had given me that my uncle had held onto, from every source I could find. I hid emergency cash in a shoebox under a loose floorboard in my room. I copied important documents, birth certificate, parents' death certificates, social security cards, while they were out of the house. I also made copies of the trust fund documents and bank statements showing how my uncle had been stealing our inheritance. That would be key in the legal battle ahead. Planning the escape was the hardest part. Where would we go? How would we get there? How would we survive? Ms. Rodriguez offered to let us stay with her temporarily, but we both knew it wasn't a long-term solution. That's when I remembered Aunt Clara, my mother's sister. She lived in another state, a 6-hour drive away. We hadn't seen her since my parents' funeral, but she had always been kind to us. I found her number online and called her from a payphone. Aunt Clara? It's Megan, Brian's daughter. There was a pause on the other end. Megan? Is that really you? How are you? How's Daniel? I broke down. I hadn't realized how much I needed to hear someone ask how I was. We're not okay, I said. We need help. She listened as I told her everything. The abuse, the neglect, the stolen inheritance. When I finished, she was crying. Oh, Megan, I'm so sorry. I should have checked on you. I should have known. It's not your fault, I said. But can you help us now? Yes, she said without hesitation. Whatever you need. Whatever it takes. Come home. Packing an emergency bag was tricky. I couldn't pack too much or they'd notice. I had a small duffel bag in my school locker, filled with essentials, clothes, toiletries, copies of documents, cash, my phone charger, and a photo of my parents. I studied their routines meticulously. The best time to leave would be when they were at work and the kids were at school. A 3-hour window of opportunity. But there were close calls. Once, the wife came home unexpectedly while I was making copies of documents. I had to shove everything under my bed and pretend I was cleaning. She looked around suspiciously. What are you doing? Just tidying up, I said, my heart racing. She narrowed her eyes. You've been acting strange lately. I'm just trying to be more helpful, I said, forcing a smile. She stared at me for a long moment, then left. I let out a breath I didn't realize I was holding. Another time, my uncle almost caught me recording him. I had my phone hidden in my pocket, set to record audio. He was yelling at me for not folding the laundry correctly. Suddenly, he grabbed my arm. What's that? He said, pointing to my pocket. Nothing, I said, my mind racing. Just my phone. He tried to grab it, but I pulled away. Why are you being so secretive? I'm not, I said. I just value my privacy. He looked at me, surprised by my defiance. Then he laughed. You think you have privacy? You think you have rights? You belong to us. Remember that. As he walked away, I realized I had enough evidence. Enough to expose them. Enough to escape. That night, I met with Ms. Rodriguez and Linda Hayes. I think I'm ready, I said. Are you sure you want to do this? Ms. Rodriguez asked. I've never been more sure of anything, I said. I'm doing this for that 9-year-old girl who lost her parents. For my brother. For every silent child who's ever been told they're worthless. Linda nodded. Then let's make a plan. A safe plan. A smart plan. And we did. A plan to change everything. The day everything exploded was Sunday, May 15th, 2022. Church Day. The day they presented themselves as perfect Christians. The day they sat in the front row and donated money they'd stolen from orphans. The day they'd invited the entire church congregation over for a special announcement after the service. We didn't know what the announcement was, but I knew it was my chance. My moment. My stage. Linda had advised against confronting them privately. They'll just deny it, she said. You need witnesses. You need to expose them in a way they can't spin or deny. So we planned a public confrontation. A reckoning. That morning, I dressed carefully. Not in the hand-me-downs I usually wore, but in the new clothes I'd bought with my own money. A simple blue dress. Comfortable shoes. My hair pulled back neatly. I looked like the daughter they pretended to have, not the slave they actually kept. As we got ready for church, the wife eyed me suspiciously. Why are you so dressed up? It's Sunday, I said calmly. God deserves our best. She narrowed her eyes, but didn't press further. Daniel, now 10, looked at me with a mixture of fear and admiration. He knew something was happening. I had told him the night before. We're getting out of here, I had whispered. For good. He had hugged me so tightly I could barely breathe. Really? He asked. Really, I promised. Church was torture. Sitting there, listening to the pastor talk about love and forgiveness while my uncle sat beside me, the man who had beaten me countless times. Watching the wife receive communion as if she were holy. But I kept my focus. Reminded myself why I was there. Justice. For Daniel. For myself. For all the silent children still trapped. After the service, everyone gathered in the church hall. The pastor made an announcement. I want to recognize John and his wife for their incredible generosity. They've just made a substantial donation to our building fund. Everyone applauded. My uncle and his wife stood, beaming. We're also thrilled to announce, the wife said, that we're starting a new foster care ministry through the church to help children who have nowhere else to go. The irony was so thick I could taste it. People came up to congratulate them, to praise them, to tell them what saints they were. And they accepted it all. Smiling, lying, performing. That's when I stepped forward. Excuse me, I said, my voice clear and steady. I have something to say. All eyes turned to me. My uncle's face tightened. The wife looked panicked. Megan, what are you doing? She whispered. Telling the truth, I said. I pulled out my phone and connected it to the church's sound system. For years, these people have presented themselves as pillars of the community, as loving guardians, as Christians. I looked around the room, at the faces of people who had known me for years but never really seen me. But that's not who they are. Not behind closed doors. I pressed play on my phone. The room filled with the sound of my uncle's voice. You worthless piece of shit. You can't do anything right. Gasps rippled through the crowd. You think this is bad? This is nothing compared to what I could do to you. My voice, small and scared. Please, I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't cut it. You'll be sorry when you're sleeping in the garage tonight. I stopped the recording. The room was dead silent. That's from March 15th of this year, I said. The night he threw a book at my head because I looked at him wrong. The wife stepped forward. She's lying. She's always been a troubled child, always exaggerating, always seeking attention. Am I? I said, pulling up photos on my phone and projecting them onto the wall. Pictures of my bruises, my scars, my barren room, the locked pantry. Then explain these photos. Explain the recordings. Explain why I weigh 95 pounds at 25 years old. Ms. Rodriguez stepped forward. I believe her. I've seen the evidence. I've heard the recordings. This isn't exaggeration. This is abuse. Mr. Wallace, our neighbor, stood up. I've heard screaming from that house late at night. I never wanted to get involved, but I knew something wasn't right. Mrs. Cooper from down the street. I saw her once, working in the garden in 90-degree heat with no water. She looked like she was going to pass out. When I offered her a drink, the wife said she wasn't allowed. One by one, people spoke up. Not just about me, but about things they'd noticed. Things they'd ignored. Things they'd rationalized away. My uncle's face was red with rage. You ungrateful, after everything we did for you. You starved me, I said, my voice shaking but steady. You beat me. You made me sleep on a mattress on the floor while your dogs had beds. You stole my inheritance. That's what you did for me. The wife was crying now, but they weren't genuine tears. They were the tears of a performer who'd lost control of her audience. We took you in when no one else wanted you. We gave you a home. You gave me a prison, I said. Then I turned to Daniel, who was standing beside me, holding my hand. Tell them, Daniel, you don't have to be afraid anymore. He looked at the crowd, then at our uncle and his wife. They hurt her every day, he said, his voice small but clear. They hurt me too. I tried to help, but I was too small. I'm sorry, Megan. I knelt down and hugged him. You have nothing to be sorry for. You were brave. You are brave. That's when the doors opened and Linda Hayes walked in, followed by 2 police officers. Megan Bryan, she said. We're here to help. My uncle lunged toward me, but Officer Martinez intercepted him. Sir, step back. This is my house. This is my family. Not anymore, I said. The wife collapsed into a chair, sobbing. After all we've done for you. What have you done? I asked. Besides abuse us? Neglect us? Steal from us? I turned to the crowd. They promised my dying mother they would take care of us. Instead, they destroyed us. The pastor looked horrified. I had no idea. None of us did. That's how they wanted it, I said. That's how abusers operate. In the shadows. Behind closed doors. With smiles on their faces in public. Officer Johnson approached me gently. Megan, we need to take your statement. And we need to get you and your brother somewhere safe. I nodded. As they led us out of the church, I looked back. At the faces of the people who had watched me suffer for years. Some looked ashamed. Some looked angry. Some looked sad. But they all finally saw me. I wasn't invisible anymore. My knees buckled as we reached the police car. I did it, I whispered to Ms. Rodriguez, who had followed us out. I actually did it. She hugged me tightly. Yes, you did. And I am so proud of you. As we drove away, I watched the church get smaller in the distance. A place that had represented hypocrisy and lies to me for so long. But today, in that same building, I had found my voice. I had spoken my truth. And I had set us free. The reckoning had begun. The legal process was grueling. Exposing my uncle and his wife in public was one thing. Proving their crimes in a court of law was another. But Linda had prepared me. It's going to be hard, she said. You'll have to relive everything. But you're strong. You've survived the worst. You can survive this. The police investigation began immediately. Officer Martinez, who had responded at the church, took my initial statement. He was kind but thorough. I need you to tell me everything, Megan, he said. Every detail you can remember. So I did. I talked for hours, detailing years of abuse. The starvation. The beatings. The psychological manipulation. The locked pantry. The stolen inheritance. Daniel sat beside me, holding my hand, occasionally adding his own memories. They locked me in the closet once, he said quietly. For a whole day. Because I spilled juice on the carpet. Officer Martinez's face hardened, but his voice remained gentle. You're safe now. Both of you. CPS removed Daniel from the home immediately, placing him with me in a temporary safe house provided by the county. It was strange having a real bed. A kitchen with unlocked cabinets. Food whenever we wanted it. The first night, Daniel woke up screaming from a nightmare. I'm sorry, he said, when I rushed to his room. I thought I was back there. I held him until he stopped shaking. We're safe now, I whispered. I promise. The medical examinations were humiliating but necessary. Dr. Stevens, a kind older woman with gentle hands, documented every scar, every injury, every sign of long-term neglect. You have multiple healed fractures, she said, examining the x-rays. Some that are years old. And you're severely malnourished. She looked at me, her eyes filled with compassion. How did you survive? I had to, I said simply. For Daniel. Criminal charges were filed against my uncle and his wife. Assault, child abuse, neglect, and financial exploitation. Attorney Rebecca Morgan, a fierce advocate for abuse survivors, took our case pro bono. What they did to you is monstrous, she said, during our first meeting. But how you fought back, that's heroic. The civil lawsuit for the stolen inheritance was more complex. My uncle had drained the trust fund my parents had left for Daniel and me, nearly $500,000 over the years. Attorney Morgan explained our options. We can sue for the full amount, plus damages. But it won't be easy. They'll fight. They'll lie. They've been lying our whole lives, I said. I'm not afraid of their lies anymore. The media picked up the story. Local news first, then national outlets. Church-going couple accused of horrific abuse against nieces and nephew, the headlines read. My uncle and his wife became pariahs in the community they had once ruled. The church distanced itself. The businesses my uncle worked with severed ties. The charities the wife had volunteered for removed her from their boards. Their perfect facade had shattered, and underneath was nothing but ugliness. The court dates were emotionally exhausting. I had to testify multiple times, describing in detail the abuse I had suffered. Each time, it felt like reliving the trauma. But I wasn't alone. Ms. Rodriguez, Linda, Attorney Morgan, and Aunt Clara, who had flown in to support us, attended every hearing. They sat in the front row, a silent army of support. During one particularly difficult testimony, when the defense attorney tried to paint me as a troubled, vindictive liar, I looked at Daniel, who was sitting in the gallery. He gave me a small thumbs up, and I found my strength again. The most powerful moment came during my uncle's trial. Attorney Morgan was cross-examining him. You claim you loved your niece and nephew? That you provided for them? Of course, he said, playing the victim. We took them in when no one else would. We gave them a home. Attorney Morgan walked to the evidence table and picked up a photo of my room, the barren space with just a mattress on the floor. Is this what you call a home? She chose to live that way, he said. She was always difficult. She then showed a photo of the dogs' beds, plush, comfortable, with expensive toys scattered around. And yet your dogs had better living conditions than the children in your care? That's different. How? Attorney Morgan pressed. How is it different? They are living beings. They depend on you for care, for safety, for love. She paused, letting her words sink in. Or does that only apply to animals? The courtroom was silent. Even the judge looked angry. Daniel's testimony was heartbreaking. Small and fragile on the witness stand, he described years of watching me be abused, of being hurt himself, of living in constant fear. I tried to help her, he said, crying. But I was just a kid. When the verdicts came, I felt a strange mix of emotions. Relief, satisfaction, but also a profound sadness for the childhood we had lost. My uncle was convicted on all counts and sentenced to 15 years in prison. The wife received 10 years. They would also have to pay restitution for the stolen inheritance. My victim impact statement was the final word. I stood before the court, my hands shaking but my voice steady. You took my childhood. You took my sense of safety. You made me believe I was worthless. But you were wrong. I survived you. And I will spend the rest of my life making sure no child ever suffers what I suffered in silence. I looked directly at them. I don't forgive you. I don't have to. But I am free of you. And that is justice. As we left the courtroom, reporters surrounded us. Megan, how do you feel? One asked. Tired, I said honestly. But hopeful. What's next for you and Daniel? Healing, I said. And building a new life. Together. That night, for the first time in over a decade, I slept through the night. No nightmares. No fear. Just the quiet peace of justice served. The first months after the trial were a strange mix of freedom and confusion. Aunt Clara insisted we come live with her in her small but cozy home in Vermont. It's time you had a real home, she said, tears in her eyes as she hugged us at the airport. Moving in with her was an adjustment. For years, I had been hypervigilant, constantly on edge, waiting for the next blow, the next criticism. Now, I had to learn what safety felt like. The first week, I kept waiting for Aunt Clara to yell at me for leaving a dish in the sink or for not cleaning something properly. She never did. "Megan, this is your home too," she said gently when she found me scrubbing the kitchen floor at 2 a.m. "You don't have to earn your place here." Daniel adjusted faster than I did. At 11, he was still young enough to embrace the new normal. He enrolled in a local school, joined the soccer team, and even made a few friends. But the trauma lingered. He still had nightmares, still flinched at sudden movements, still hid food in his room, a habit from years of scarcity. When I found a stash of granola bars under his bed, I didn't scold him. I just made sure the pantry was always stocked with his favorite snacks. "I'm sorry," he said, when I confronted him about the hidden food. "You don't have to be sorry," I said. "Old habits die hard. But you're safe now." We both are. Starting therapy was non-negotiable. Dr. Elena Hartman, a specialist in trauma and abuse, came highly recommended. Our first session, I sat rigidly on her couch, my hands clasped tightly in my lap. "You don't have to talk about anything you're not ready for," she said, her voice calm and soothing. But I was ready. I had been ready for years. So I talked, and talked, and talked. Physical recovery was slower than I expected. Despite the lawsuit victory, money was tight. The restitution would come in installments, and the legal fees had taken a chunk of what we had recovered up front. But we had enough to cover our basic needs, and for the first time, those needs included adequate food. Gaining weight was a strange process. For years, I had been hungry. Now, I had to relearn how to eat normally, how to recognize hunger signals, how to stop when I was full, not when the food ran out. Certain foods still triggered me. Anything with chocolate reminded me of the cake I had baked for my uncle's birthday, the one he threw against the wall. Roasted asparagus brought back memories of the Valentine's Day dinner they had taunted me with. But I was determined to heal, to reclaim food as nourishment, not as a weapon used against me. PTSD symptoms lingered. I was still hypervigilant, still checked the locks 3 times before bed, still jumped at raised voices, still had nightmares that left me gasping for air. "Healing isn't linear," Dr. Hartman explained. "You experienced years of trauma. It's going to take time to unlearn the survival responses that kept you alive." One particularly bad night, I woke up screaming, convinced I was back in the basement, locked in the dark. Aunt Clara rushed in, her face filled with concern. "Megan, what's wrong?" "I'm sorry," I said, shaking. I thought I was back there." She sat on my bed and held me until I stopped trembling. "Why do I still feel afraid?" I asked, my voice small. "Because healing isn't linear," she said, echoing Dr. Hartman. "You're safe now, but your body doesn't know that yet. It remembers. It's trying to protect you." Small victories became our celebration points. The first full night of sleep I got without nightmares. The first meal I ate without feeling guilty. The first time I went grocery shopping and bought whatever I wanted without worrying about the cost or someone else's approval. Daniel's first soccer game, where he scored the winning goal. The first birthday we celebrated with cake and presents, my 26th birthday. "Make a wish," Aunt Clara said, as I looked at the flickering candles. I closed my eyes. What did I wish for? Not for revenge, we had that. Not for wealth, we had enough. I wished for what we were. Already building, a life of peace, safety, and love. When I opened my eyes, Daniel was grinning at me. "What did you wish for?" "I can't tell you," I said. "Or it won't come true." "I think I know," he said quietly. "Me too." Making friends as an adult with a history like mine was challenging. How much do you share? When do you share it? Will they understand? Will they believe me? But I found a kindred spirit in Nicole, a fellow survivor I met at a support group Dr. Hartman recommended. We bonded over our shared experiences, our similar triggers, our parallel journeys toward healing. It's like we have this secret language, she said one day as we drank coffee at a local cafe. A language only survivors understand. And yet, I said, I wouldn't wish this understanding on anyone. Financial struggles persisted despite the lawsuit victory. The restitution payments were inconsistent, and the cost of therapy, plus Daniel's needs, added up. I got a job at a local bookstore, which I loved. Being surrounded by stories of triumph, of adventure, of overcoming, felt healing. The owner, Mrs. Ellis, was kind and understanding when I needed time off for court dates or therapy sessions. You've been through enough, she said. Work should be your safe place, not another source of stress. The online community that had followed my story continued to be a source of support. Comments and messages from strangers who had been inspired by my courage, who had found their own voices because of mine. Your story helped me report my abusive ex, one message read. Thank you for giving me the courage. I'm a teacher, said another. Because of you, I'm looking more closely at my students, really seeing them, not just teaching them. These messages reminded me that sharing my pain had served a purpose. That my suffering hadn't been in vain. One evening, as I was tucking Daniel into bed, he looked at me seriously. You saved us, Megan. We saved each other, I corrected. But he shook his head. No. You were brave when I was scared. You were strong when I was weak. You saved us. I kissed his forehead. Then we'll spend the rest of our lives making sure it was worth it. He nodded, already half asleep. I will too. That night, I slept better than I had in years. Not because the nightmares were gone, they still came sometimes. But because for the first time, I truly believed we were going to be okay. Not perfect. Not untouched by our past. But okay. And okay was more than enough. Looking back from a place of hard-won strength, I can see how far we've come. How much has changed. And how much hasn't. I'm 27 now, almost 2 years since that day in the church when I stood up and spoke my truth. Sometimes it feels like yesterday. Sometimes it feels like a lifetime ago. I don't forgive my uncle and his wife. I don't have to. Forgiveness isn't a requirement for healing. It's a choice, and I choose not to extend it to people who showed no mercy, no compassion, no humanity. But I am free of them. Their voices no longer live in my head. Their opinions no longer matter. Their power over me is broken. Some people asked why I didn't leave sooner. They don't understand that survival isn't simple. When you're a child dependent on abusers, leaving isn't just packing a bag and walking out the door. It's planning. It's timing. It's resources. It's safety nets. It's knowing where you'll go and how you'll survive once you get there. It's understanding that the most dangerous time for an abuse victim is when they try to leave. My scars tell a story. Not of shame, of endurance. Each one is a reminder of what I survived. A testament to my strength. A map of my journey from victim to survivor to advocate. I used to hide them. Now, I don't flinch when someone asks about the jagged line on my forearm or the faded mark on my forehead. They're part of me. Part of my story. I learned that speaking up isn't easy. But silence is heavier. Carrying the secret of abuse is a burden that weighs you down, that isolates you, that keeps you trapped. Speaking your truth, whether to one person or to hundreds, lifts that weight. It connects you to others. It opens the door to healing. What's changed between Megan at 25 and Megan now? Everything and nothing. My relationship with my body has transformed. I'm learning to feed it without shame, to move it without fear, to appreciate it for carrying me through hell and back. My voice has changed too. It's stronger now. More confident. I no longer apologize for existing, for taking up space, for having needs. My boundaries are fierce. I protect my peace like a mother bear protects her cubs. I've learned to say no without explanation. To walk away from toxic situations without guilt. To prioritize my well-being without feeling selfish. What hasn't changed? Some triggers remain. Loud arguments still make me anxious. I still check the locks obsessively before bed. Certain foods still evoke painful memories. Trust is still hard. I still approach new relationships with caution, waiting for the other shoe to drop. But these aren't weaknesses. They're survival mechanisms that kept me alive. They're part of my story, but they don't define my future. Wisdom has come with healing. Not everyone who sees abuse will help. That's not your fault. People have their own reasons for turning away: fear, denial, discomfort. Their inaction is a reflection of them, not a judgment of your worth. Your abuser's explanations don't matter. Their reasons don't erase your pain. Whether they were abused themselves, whether they were stressed, whether they had a bad day, none of it justifies the cruelty they inflicted on you. Justice doesn't erase trauma. But it proves you weren't crazy. You weren't lying. It happened. Someone else, whether a judge, a jury, or just the court of public opinion, saw the truth and validated your experience. That validation is powerful. It's affirming. It's healing. Healing looks different for everyone. There's no timeline. No finish line. It's not a linear process. Some days you'll feel like you've made so much progress. Other days you'll feel like you're right back where you started. Both are normal. Both are part of the journey. To everyone who watched my video series and shared it, thank you. Your comments, your messages, your support, they reminded me I wasn't invisible. They gave me strength when I was running low. They showed me that my story mattered. To everyone still trapped, I see you. Your voice matters. Your pain is real. You don't have to suffer in silence. There is help. There is hope. There is a way out. To everyone who doubted, I don't need your belief anymore. I know my truth. I've lived it. I've survived it. I've overcome it. Daniel's growth has been remarkable to witness. Now 12, he's thriving in therapy, excelling in school, and becoming more confident each day. He still struggles sometimes, anniversaries of particularly traumatic events, triggers that catch him off guard. But he's learning to navigate them with resilience. He calls me his hero, but the truth is, he's mine. His courage, his compassion, his capacity to love after everything he's been through, it inspires me every day. Our bond is unbreakable. We're the only two people in the world who truly understand what the other has been through. We don't have to explain our triggers or our coping mechanisms. We just get it. We just are. We're healing together. Recently, we started a tradition of weekly gratitude dinners. We cook together, something we both enjoy now, and go around the table, sharing 3 things we're grateful for. Last week, Daniel's list included my soccer team, Ms. Rodriguez for believing in Megan, and locks that work from the inside. It's these moments, small, ordinary, beautiful, that remind me how far we've come, how much we've healed, how much we have to look forward to. I'm not the same person I was 2 years ago. I'm stronger, wiser, more compassionate, more determined to use my experience to help others. I've started volunteering at a local domestic violence shelter, sharing my story with survivors who need to know they're not alone. I'm also working with Ms. Rodriguez and Linda to develop an abuse awareness program for schools, training teachers and staff to recognize the signs, to ask the right questions, to intervene effectively. Your story could save lives, Ms. Rodriguez told me. And that's my goal now. Not just to heal myself, but to help others heal. Not just to find my voice, but to help others find theirs. My uncle and his wife took so much from me, but they couldn't take my spirit. They couldn't break my resilience. They couldn't silence my truth. And in the end, that's what saved me. That's what saves us all. The refusal to be broken. The determination to survive. The courage to speak. The strength to heal. The choice to thrive. I went to the grocery store yesterday. I stood in the pet food aisle for a long time, staring at the premium dog food brands. The kind she used to buy for her precious pets while I starved. I didn't cry. I didn't shake. I just remembered. Then I walked to the next aisle and filled my cart with whatever I wanted. Chocolate, fresh bread, real butter, fruit that wasn't bruised. I paid for it with money I earned. Money no one can take from me. When I got home, Daniel helped me put the groceries away. We have our own place now, a small apartment above the bookstore where I work. It's not fancy, but it's ours. The pantry doesn't have a lock. The fridge is full. We eat dinner together every night at an actual table. Sometimes Daniel still sneaks food into his room. Old habits die hard. When I find the hidden granola bars, I don't say anything. I just make sure the pantry is always stocked. Last week, he asked if we could get a dog. I said maybe someday, when we're ready. He smiled and said, "But you'll feed it, right? Not like before." "Yes," I told him. "I'll feed it. And you. And me. Every single day." That's a promise. They're in prison now. Not for long enough, but long enough for us to rebuild. Long enough for us to learn what safety feels like. I still have nightmares. I still flinch at raised voices. I still check the locks 3 times before bed. But I also laugh now. Real laughs. The kind that come from somewhere deep, somewhere they couldn't touch. Last night, Daniel and I were watching a comedy show, and I laughed so hard I cried. He looked at me surprised. "I don't think I've ever heard you laugh like that," he said. "I don't think I ever have," I replied. And it was true. Not like this. Not with joy, not with freedom, not without fear. My name is Megan Bryan. I am 27 years old. I am a survivor. And I am no longer invisible. If you're still watching, still here with me, thank you. Your comments, your shares, your messages, they save me in ways you'll never fully understand. This is my story. But it's also yours if you need it to be. You are not alone. You are not invisible. And you are so much stronger than they ever told you. Tonight, Daniel and I sit at our small table, eating the meal we cooked together. He's telling me about his day at school, his mouth full of pasta, his eyes bright with excitement. I'm listening, really listening, not with one ear cocked for danger, but with my whole heart focused on this moment. This ordinary, extraordinary moment of peace, of safety, of home. The dogs in this house eat well. But so do I.